Welcome to the Tentaroo Foundations webinar series. This session's topic is building and administering facilities. In this session, I will cover setting up facilities from location and facility types to building the individual facilities. We'll also go through managing facilities on the admin side, such as setting up blackouts, checking availabilities, and pulling reports. The Facilities module is used for year-round booking of your cabins, campsites, and other amenities. Facility setup is structured in 3 layers, starting with the locations, which are the properties that you are renting out. Then you have facility types, which define and categorize your facilities like cabins or campsites with master settings for each. And then we have facilities. These are what your users will actually book and pay for. I'll go over each of these layers in depth in this webinar, starting with locations. To access the Facilities admin interface, let's click on the Facilities button in the admin panel on the left. This launches the Locations lookup box, which shows you all of the locations you've ever used in alphabetical order. Locations are a foundational element of the Tentaroo system and are shared between each of our 3 modules. For the Facilities module, everything is built on top of a location. The Websites module uses them for calendar events, and the Events module uses them for all of your registration events. So as you look at this box, you will see a lot more locations than you plan on setting up for online booking. Your users will only see those locations for which online booking is enabled. And once you start building facilities under a location, that location will be sorted to the top of this list to make it easier to find and access. If you need to add a new location, you can do that from here using this white plus symbol in the blue bar at the top. Fill out the new location form with your property's name and address. And I want to mention here that the phone number is optional. So you can leave it blank if the location phone is not being monitored, or you can enter a different phone number that will be answering questions about booking at this location. Once you click Create, that location will be added to your list to work with in all 3 of the modules. Now going back to the locations list, to find an existing location in your list, you can scroll through this or use the magnifying glass to search and then click on that location to get started. Once you're inside the location interface, you will see the blue nav bar along the top. Here, this shows facilities, availabilities, blackouts, reports, and settings. I will go through each of these in the course of the webinar, starting with settings. Starting in the top box for general settings, this is where the address, phone number, fax number are all displayed, and you can make changes here. These details are in use, are shared throughout the system wherever this location is in use. So be careful making changes here. You can also add a link to your website that promotes this facility and grab a deep link, which is a shareable link you can send out via email or social media to promote facility booking. When a user uses your deep link, after login, they will be taken directly to this location to book facilities. Click this button to copy this link to your clipboard and then go and share it wherever you need to. The rules box has various settings that configure the overall behavior of facility booking at this property, including the master toggle to allow online booking for the location. When you are ready to launch your facility booking, this is your on button. You can also turn online booking off if you need to do maintenance on your facility booking system later on. The next setting is Require Trip Contact Phone. When your users are booking facilities, they will start by creating a trip that includes contact information for that group. Name and address for your primary contact are required, but you can decide whether or not you want the phone number to be required as well using this toggle. I'm going to leave that on. The rest of the fields in this box define the booking window. When can new bookings be made, and how long are you allowing changes? Allow booking maximum is the first part of your booking window. How far ahead can groups start trips and book facilities? This is defined by a number of months and is a rolling date to keep bookings from happening too far in advance. For example, if I set this to 11 months and today's date is October 17th, a group could book up to September 16th of next year, but not after. Future availability can also be controlled via blackout dates, which I will show later on. With blackouts, you can set specific dates for when your facilities aren't available. Now, I'm going to talk about two of these, allow booking minimum and allow changes by group. And then I'll come back to allow automatic credit later. Allow booking minimum, with allow booking minimum, this setting closes the window for new reservations. It defines how close to the current date a new trip or reservation can be made. For example, if we set this to 7 days, and today's date is October 17th, the closest date a group could book a new trip would be October 22nd, but no sooner. And if a group has an existing trip, any new reservations would also have to start on or after the 22nd. Closing new reservations with this setting allows you to take the time you need to prepare for their arrival at camp. If the group needs to add reservations after the booking window has closed, they will need to go through the office. Now, skipping to allow changes by group. This is a similar setting, but it applies only to existing reservations. When the group has already booked and you know they're coming, you might allow some changes closer to their arrival date, like adjusting headcounts or modifying dates. However, even for existing trips, this is not used for adding new reservations. This setting is only about changing an existing booking. Now coming back around to allow automatic credit. With allow changes by group, you're allowing the group to make adjustments to their reservation. But what about when money is involved? Do you want to allow the group to make cost reductions to their reservations? That's where allow automatic credit comes in. You'll set this value to when the group no longer gets a full refund per your cancellation policies, after which all reductions go through an admin so you can process convenience fees and post refunds. After this point, the group won't be able to make a change that would reduce the price of their finalized reservation, including, of course, canceling their reservations. This setting may be similar to allow changes by group, or it might be earlier depending on your cancellation policies for facility booking. Next, we have the primary contact. The primary contact for the location will be displayed along with their contact info for this location throughout the system. They will also receive notifications whenever bookings are made or changed at this location. Last, we have the trip notification custom message. Use this box to write a custom message that will be included at the bottom of every new and updated trip notification sent to users. I'll show you an example notification in a moment. This text can be formatted with the built-in styles, and you can add hyperlinks and images to communicate with your users. This is a great spot for refund policies, gate procedures, or other information your groups need for their stay at your location. So here is an example of a trip notification from one of my other locations that includes some custom formatting at the bottom. These messages go out when a new reservation or changes to an existing reservation are finalized, either by the group or by an admin. These are sent to contacts from the group profile as well as trip contacts. For admin users, these will go to location contacts, which we just set, as well as facility type contacts if those facilities are included in the changes. And I'll show you where to add facility type contacts in just a bit. So now let's go back here and save our changes to finish setting up our location for booking. Now that our location and main settings are configured, let's switch to the next layer, facility types. Facility types serve both as categories to organize your facilities and as a means of configuring master settings that make it quick and easy to set up individual facilities with minimal work. To get started, select Facilities from the blue nav bar. In this section, you now have two tabs, Facilities and Types. Click on Types. Facility types are shared between all of your locations and set some basic rules for booking as well as additional notification contacts for these facilities. You can set up as many facility types as you need, so if a setting for, let's say, cabins is different between multiple locations, you can set up a cabins facility type for each location. My example here shows cabins HV and cabins TSR, where the initials stand for other locations that have different types of cabins. All right, now I'm going to walk you through adding a new facility type. First, we have two fields for the name. We have name and we have name in plural. This allows you to define how the name is displayed. And since plurals are hard, you get control over how you want the plural form to show up in the app. So I'm going to set this up as Cabins CT for Camp Tentaroo. So here's Cabin CT and Cabins CT. All right, next we have Show As. This defines the wording that shows up in the user interface to describe this type of facility. An accommodation shows times as check-in and check-out, whereas an activity shows times as start or end. Since cabins are usually an overnight accommodation, we're going to leave this as accommodation. Next, we have a toggle to allow overlapping groups. This setting allows multiple groups to book your facilities set up under this type. Having this setting on is good for facilities that aren't capped to limited spots, such as an open activity area or an add-on. Facility capacity is enforced on each group that books, so they cannot exceed available spots. However, this is not currently enforced across multiple reservations. If you have a firm capacity, it's best not to allow overlapping groups unless you control reservations from the office and can make sure you don't exceed your capacity. Next, we have the property map URL. This can be a link to a PDF document hosted in your website resources, or it can be a link to a map service like Google Maps. Then you have a description box. You can use this description box for information about the type of facility, like describing cabins at this location. You will have another description box for each specific cabin when you build the facility. Next, we have Notify Contacts. Now, when I set up my location, I didn't set a location contact. If I had, you would see a box here displaying the location contact. You aren't able to change your location contact from here, but this will display who is shown to users and who is set to receive notifications on this location. The additional
And
notify, sorry?
sorry, just a quick note about that is that whenever you launch online booking for this location, I believe that primary contact is required. So that will be filled out by the time you go live.
Okay. All right, and then your additional notified contacts are not displayed to end users, but will receive notifications when users book just these facilities. For example, you could add your council's shooting sports director to the range's facility type, so they are notified whenever anyone books a shooting range. Next, we have booking times. The next day toggle defines whether this is an overnight booking or a single day booking. With next day or overnight bookings, you would charge by the night, and the date range would be from, with next day enabled, you're setting up for overnight bookings, and this charges by the night, and your booking reservations would be from one day to the next on the calendar. Turning next day off makes these same day bookings, and that would charge by the day, and your reservation would be added to a single day on the calendar. A quick example of the differences between next day and same day booking would be that an overnight booking from Friday to Saturday would charge one per night fee, whereas a same day booking from Friday to Saturday would charge two per day fees. Regardless of which setting you use, you would need to make your booking times, your check-in and check-out times match the time frame that you allow groups to be at your facility. And there is a third option for setting up booking times where you can set up individual time blocks throughout the day, which I will show you under the facility settings in just a little bit. And next, we have attributes. Attributes are features available on some or all of your facilities in this facility type category. For example, some cabins might have central heating, while others have wood-burning stoves. You can add those attributes here. So we have central heating and wood-burning stove. And you can add as many of these as you need. And then you can decide which cabin has either one when you're setting up the facility. On the user side, attributes are referred to as features and show a check when available and an X when not available at that facility. So let's click Create to add this. I missed a setting. We'll make this next day booking because it is an accommodation overnight booking. And there we go. So now we've added this facility type to our system. All right, so now let's go back up and switch to the Facilities tab to add the last layer, Individual Facilities. These are what your users are booking in the course of making reservations. So let's add a new facility using the green New button, and now we'll see the facility type selector. This box has a few useful features that I want to point out. First, the plus sign in the blue bar at the top starts a new facility type, so you don't have to bounce back and forth if you're adding a lot of these. The magnifying glass allows you to search this list, and you have a refresh button that refreshes just this list. The pencil icon on the right of each facility type is a shortcut to edit that facility type. And now let's just use our new cabins CT facility type to assign to our new facility. All right, now we give our new facility a name, and if you're ready to do so, add your description. This can be added or edited later, so you don't have to add it in this step. So we're going to make this cabin 1 and click Create to add the facility. And now we have more settings to work with to set up this specific facility. So as you can see, you can edit the name or the description at any time. So you can come back and fill this out more thoroughly later on. Any of these boxes that say shared settings will allow you to edit the shared setting from the facility type, and that would apply to all the facilities set up under this type. Then we have the list of attributes. Check the boxes next to any or all attributes that apply to this facility and use the Manage Shared Attributes button to edit that list at the facility type level. So if we need to add something here, we can do that. Next, we have a photos box. You can add as many photos as you want to promote this facility. You can drag and drop from a file or upload using the upload button or even just clicking the camera to select photos from your system. So I'm going to add a couple of flower pictures to our facility today. Once you've added your photos, you can drag and drop to change the order. So I'm going to start out with this purple zinnia. You can also use this import button to import photos from another facility that you already have set up. Use this three-dot menu in the corner of the thumbnail to change the order or delete a photo if you no longer want it. And then you can turn on Show Deleted and restore photos if you decide you want that back.
And one quick note about the images. You mentioned that you can drag and drop to change the order, and that will be the order that they're shown to the user when the user looks at this facility. But also the first image will be used as the thumbnail for the facility. So just keep that in mind when they're looking at the list of all the facilities. The thumbnails that they'll see will always be based on the first photo that you upload here, or whichever one you drag to the beginning.
That's correct. Thanks, Moisha. All right, and our next card is booking settings. The first setting in this box is regarding the online booking permissions. You can set this to allow online booking, which shows the facilities and allows users to self-book. You can disable online booking but still show the facility. In this situation, your users can see this facility, but they need to contact you to book it. Or you can disable online booking and hide facility. This makes it a completely admin-only facility. This is useful for convenience fees, mass bookings, or other council-specific options. This is also helpful if you need to take a facility out of rotation for maintenance or something, where you don't have to delete it while it's being maintenance. You just turn it off for your end users. Next, we have maximum accommodation. This is the capacity setting for this facility. As you set this, this will be enforced on each group that books. So my cabin has a maximum accommodation of 25 people. Then we have booking length, and this defines the minimum and maximum number of days a group can book at a time. I'm going to set mine to 3 days maximum and 1 day minimum. And then we have a couple of toggles here. The first is require entire weekend. This setting ensures that if a group wants the facility on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, that they have to book and be charged for the entire weekend, even if they are only going to be there for a portion of the time. And that applies to, or that example applies for next day bookings, which is the most common use for this toggle. But in the case of same day bookings, the behavior would be they would require Saturday and Sunday for a weekend booking. The next toggle, requires start on Sunday, is pretty self-explanatory. This would make the booking start on Sunday, but this feature is rarely used. All right, booking times then are defined as full day, which uses the settings from the facility type, either by the night or by the day, or you can switch to custom time blocks, which are specific time blocks for this facility. You can also use this toggle to show or hide the check-in or out times for this facility, which is useful for things that aren't time-based, like a fee or an add-on. We're going to leave that on for here. Getting back to the custom time blocks, this allows you to offer multiple booking times within a single day for the facility. This is great for facilities like a climbing wall or a conference room where you want to offer different segments of time. Enabling this feature allows you to add as many time blocks as needed for this facility with specific check-in and check-out times. On the user side, they will see a separate facility to book for each time slot and can book multiple time slots as needed, but not at once, not like all in one go. They will have to book each individually as if they were separate facilities. So you don't want to make the time slots too small. When we get into the pricing settings here in a little bit, those pricing settings will apply for each time block. Then, if you have multiple facilities with the same custom time block setup, you can use the import button at the top of this box to import your settings from one facility to another without having to rebuild them from scratch. I'm going to go back to full day booking for my cabins though. Now we have the pricing card. This defines the actual prices that you are charging. These settings can be imported from one facility to another, so you can update multiple facilities quickly if you need to make changes. The very first setting is the GL account for the facility. So I'm going to set this to year-round. Actually, I don't even have one. Yeah, I do. There it is, year-round camping at Camp Tentaroo. All right, and then the next setting is now we're moving into the pricing settings themselves. For purposes of facility booking, per day is defined as the unit of time. For example, next day booking would mean this is a per night facility, per night price. Next day off would make this a per day price or per time block. I'm going to refer to this as per day during this webinar for simplicity's sake. On the user side, there is actually more specific language to describe this. It shows more detail about the time being booked, i.e. price per night or price per block. But yeah, I will just talk about this as per day for simplicity's sake. So then the first setting here is minimum number of per person fees. And I'm going to come back to this after I describe how the rates work because this is combined with that. So from here, there are two methods to set rates. You have per day rates and per person per day rates. You'll notice that there are also multiple sets of these rate fields shown, and these are different settings for different pricing tiers like the default in-council and the out-of-council rates. This allows you to customize your rates for different groups, and I'll get into pricing tiers more in a minute. So let's talk about the per day rate. This is a flat rate per day for the group to book. I mentioned earlier when talking about require entire weekend that you can split your full weekend rate in half, and then the full weekend rate would be your published weekend rate. And this is where you would enter that half rate. For example, if a cabin costs $140 for the weekend, you can set the per day rate to $70 and enable require entire weekends. Let's go make sure that's on. Yep. When they book on a weekend, then they have to book Friday night and Saturday night. So they'll be charged a total of $140 for 2 nights at that cabin. Then we have the per person per day rate. This rate is charged per person per day for the group to book. It will be multiplied by the number of people using this facility. Then for both Let's set that to 5 for this. Then for both the per day and the per person per day rates, the portion due up front can be anywhere from $0 to the full rate and will be required at time of booking. So let's say I want half of each of these due up front. The per day and per person per day rates can be used individually or in combination, and they must be set for all of your pricing tiers. Now, when you have a per person per day rate set, you can also set the minimum number of per person fees. This can be used to charge a minimum rate for usage, even if the group has fewer attendees in their reservation. For example, with our per person rate set to $5, if we want to charge a minimum of $50 for the reservation, you would set the minimum number of per person fees to 10. Up to 10 participants, the fee is $50, and additional people over 10 would be charged $5 each. And this setting applies to all pricing tiers. So if your out of council pricing tier is set to $10 per person, the group would be charged a minimum of $100 for up to 10 attendees and $10 per person over 10. As I said, we'll need to continue setting rates for each of our pricing tiers. We also have these copy from default in council buttons if you want to use the same rates for each pricing tier. Unlike with the events module, you cannot disable pricing tiers in the facilities module. So even if everyone gets the same rates, you need to set those rates on all of your tiers. Now let's talk a little bit more about what pricing tiers are. Each system starts with 2 facility pricing tiers. You have the default in-council and the out-of-council. These tiers are automatically assigned to accounts based on their account type. Unit accounts are assigned based on their selected council, and non-unit accounts default to your out-of-council tier. You can request additional tiers for the facilities module by going to our admin manual. This is one of our Tentaroo managed features, so let's go to that section. And then scroll down to additional event and facility pricing tiers. The Submit Tiers button will bring up the form where you can enter your information and the details of your new facility pricing tiers. So as you're filling out this form, when you select the facilities option here, then you can enter the name of your new facility pricing tier in this box. Some uses for additional pricing tiers include non-BSA, special event, or internal. Let's make this non-BSA. If you'd like all new non-unit accounts to be automatically assigned to this new tier, you can check this box, and all newly created accounts from here on will be set to this tier. If you need to add more than one pricing tier, you can add the additional tier names in the comments section. Only one tier can be set as the default for new non-unit accounts, though, so use the built-in field for the new default name and add additional ones in the comments box. Once these are added to your system, you can change the assigned pricing tier on a group's account as needed. And I'll go over that process when I show the user interface in the Reserving and Managing Facility Bookings webinar. All right, so I'm going to go back to the system now, and I've got all my pricing set, so I'm going to save to add this cabin to our system. Now that we have the framework set up with the location settings, the facility type is all built, as well as setting up a first cabin, we can go through and quickly add remaining cabins. So as we do this, there are actually several import buttons to help make this fast and easy. All right, so we have cabin 2 added. This one has a wood burning stove. I'm going to use my import button now to bring the photos over from cabin 1. And then once those are added, I'm going to change the featured photo to one of the others that I had on that card. And then we also have import buttons under booking times if you want to import those custom time blocks, like I said, and we have an import button on pricing. Import pricing settings comes in handy not just during the initial setup like I'm doing now, but also when you need to make changes to your pricing structure later on. Let's say your fees go up. You can update one facility manually and then import those changes to similarly priced facilities, speeding things up and reducing the chance of human error. All right, so there's all my pricing settings, and then I'll click Save, and now we have 2 cabins. Now, most of your facilities are probably going to be either physical areas like cabins or campsites, or they're going to be activities like canoe rental or shooting range time. However, you can also use facilities for add-ons that don't fall into those categories. Some examples of this are firewood when the user books a cabin or campsite, extra ammunition for spending time at the range, or requesting a facilitator for time at the climbing tower. First, I want to be clear, add-ons aren't officially supported by the facilities module. In Tentaroo, add-ons can be built as separate facilities, so they can be booked like regular facilities. But these add-ons will be a separate reservation not tied to the base item. For example, there's nothing to require that the user books a campsite first in order to book a campsite add-on like firewood. The firewood isn't specifically tied to the campsite facility. I'm going to show you how you can use various settings to support this style of facility using firewood buildings as an add-on for campsites. So I'm going to start with a facility type. This new facility type is going to be campsite add-ons. Okay. And I'm not going to worry about show as because I'm going to manage that a different way. And I am going to turn allow overlapping groups on. When you have an add-on that doesn't have a limited capacity, you can allow multiple groups to select it because they're not taking up limited resources. Then we have our description box. You can use the description boxes to communicate with your groups about this type of facility. With a facility type like campsite add-ons, you might have multiple add-ons available. So we'll keep this message generic for any included add-ons. So I have a sample worked up for us here. And then we're going to go down now to booking times. For booking times, in most cases, turning off next day and making this a single day booking will work best. The times don't really matter because we'll hide them later, but the system requires us to set the start time before the end time for same day booking. So I'm going to just switch my AMs and PMs and that should do the trick. All right, and then I don't need to add any attributes to this, so I'm going to click Create. And now we have campsite add-ons as a new facility type. So now let's go over to the facilities section and add our first facility under campsite add-ons. Okay, so this one is going to be firewood bundle. And our description here should be now specific to firewood bundles with a little bit more explanation of how to book this option. So again, I have an example worked up already for us. All right, and we'll click create. And now our facility is set up and we can add or edit details to this. All right, so I'm going to go down to the booking settings section. And for this first setting about online booking, with Firewood, I want my groups to be able to add this to their own reservations. So I'm going to allow online booking. But if you want to require your users to contact you for booking this add-on, you can choose Disable Online Booking, Show Facility. This setting is great for things that require more communication for special arrangements, such as booking a facilitator for the climbing tower. And then I'm going to go in and set my maximum booking length to 1 day, so they can only book 1 day at a time. That helps me control how many of these get purchased. And then I'm going to turn off Require Entire Weekend. Then under booking times, I'm going to hide the check-in and check-out times because this isn't a time-sensitive or time-based item. So there's no need to show the times in the user interface. Now, what if you want groups to be able to book more than one bundle of firewood for their trip? You could create multiple firewood facilities, or you could use our custom time blocks feature. I'm going to add a total of 4 time blocks for my firewood bundle setup. And each one of these needs to have a different time frame. So I'm going to go through in just a moment here and set that up. All right. Um, with this setup, your users will see firewood listed multiple times, once for each time block. But as I mentioned before, they will have to add each time block option to their trip as a separate booking. They can't do a bulk add like add 1, 2, 3, I want to add 3 bundles of firewood in one go. So now let's talk about setting up the pricing. And you would of course need to select your GL accounts. So let me do that real quick. And now there are 2 ways to set up pricing for this. You can set a flat rate or you can set up a rate based on a number of people. Use the flat rate if they'll only add on one item in a reservation, like a bundle of firewood. For this, I'm going to charge $10 per bundle. So I'll set $10 as the per day rate, and I want the full amount due up front for this. When you're using the number of people to let them add more items for each person in a reservation, like adding boxes of ammo for shooting activities, you would then set the per person per day rate to the item fee. So in this case, let's say we were doing boxes of ammo, we would set our per person per day rate as $20. And then as they add this, it would be multiplied by the number of people in their reservation to total how many boxes of ammo they're purchasing. Since I'm doing firewood, I'm just going to use our flat rate. All right, I'm going to copy that to my remaining tiers and save. And now that that is set up, I want to show you how this looks in the user interface. All right, so I am in a user account, and in the list of locations, we now see Camp Tentaroo as an option. So let's just go in here real quick and look at the campsite add-ons. And here are our bundles of firewood, and there are 4 of those with the price being charged. Now, one more thing that you can do when you are building your facilities is to add some visual appeal for your users who are browsing your locations. As you can see here, each location card automatically gets a colored tile when it's first set up, and this tile has the initials of the location name. You can replace the colored tile with a thumbnail of an image through your Tentaroo website or mini site, like I've done here for Scoutland Acres and Tentaroo Scout Reservation. And I will show you how to do this in the Building Web Pages webinar. All right, I'm going to go back to our admin interface and let's talk about blackouts. Blackout dates are used to mark off dates when your facilities aren't available for users to book, such as holiday closures, facility maintenance closures, or when they are in use for council events like summer camp or a camporee. Even if those events are being run in the events module, you will still need to manually add the appropriate blackout to the facilities module because the events and the facilities calendars are not linked. Our system is not going to assume that you are using all of your facilities for an event, like maybe you're only using half the camp or a single building. So you get to control which facilities are tied up during each event. So let's add a new blackout. When you're setting up a blackout, you set the start and end date and times, and then you give a reason. And the reason is what will show up in your list as you're looking through your blackout dates. Your users won't see your blackout dates. They will just see that the facility is not available. So I'm going to quickly set up a blackout date for us for November. We're going to use November 14th through November 18th. And my times are fine. And I'm going to set this up for my fall camporee. All right. And then you click the Add Facilities button to look through all of the facilities that you have built. And we're just getting started on building this location. If I add facilities later on, I need to come back and edit this blackout to make sure that all new facilities are added. But for here, you can check individual facilities. You can filter to just a certain facility type. So where's my, there it is, campsite add-ons will let me see just what's set up under that. And then you have deselect and select all buttons at the bottom that will select or deselect just those items that are shown on the screen. And then we click save, and those facilities will be added to the list of what's included in this blackout date. All right, and now we have it. All right, so this blackout is now added to our system. And then this will be tying up those dates on the calendar so no one can book those. A few important notes about setting up blackout dates. Blackouts can stack on top of other blackouts or on existing reservations. You won't get any errors when you are adding a blackout that conflicts with another blackout or an existing reservation. You may want to use the reports, which I'll walk through in a little bit, to see if there are existing reservations before you add a blackout date. If you're planning to close camp for maintenance or have a council level event, you may need to cancel or reschedule any pre-existing reservations. Like I said, you can add blackouts on top of reservations, but you cannot add reservations on top of blackouts. If you need to add a reservation for a facility that is blacked out, you will need to remove the facility from your blackout first and then book it through a trip. You can then add the facility back to the blackout afterwards, so the remaining time covered in the blackout is still shown as not available. That can be a quick way of managing all of those blackouts and reservations on the admin side to do what you need to do. Now, when I walked through the settings at the location level earlier, I showed how you can define a number of months for how far in advance facilities can be booked. However, you can also use a full camp blackout to make that cutoff a specific date. This is useful when you want to prevent bookings until the council calendar is published and all of your council events are added. I'm going to add another blackout, and this one is going to be an annual blackout. And this one is going to be set for the next program year. So I'm going to set this for my program year runs from April 1st, 2025 to March 31st, 2026. And then I'll add all of my facilities to that and create. Our allow booking maximum setting is set to 11 months, and this will kick in starting on September 16th, 2025. But that overlaps with your annual blackout dates. So your annual blackout dates apply first, and then the rolling blackout doesn't take effect um, until you remove this blackout from the calendar. This prevents your groups from booking after the annual blackout that we just added as well. So it all works together. Now that our annual blackout is added, as an admin, you can still add specific blackout dates for your events in April 2025 and on because conflicts are allowed. You can stack those blackouts. And then when you're ready to open up the program year for online booking, you can edit your annual blackout and change your years to the next set. Everything that's built here will just move to the next year. And this year, whatever's left after you've added all of your event blackouts will be open to end users. And don't forget to save. I didn't save that because I want next year's blackout to still be on the calendar. Finally, blackout dates might not be the best choice for some of your events, like district or OA events, because blackouts don't have a spot for contact information of who's in charge or a way to collect money and track it through Tentaroo. If you need to add a contact person or you want to track the money for booking the facilities, we recommend creating a trip and reservations through a group account instead. To expand on that, you can set up group accounts for internal organizations like the OA Lodge or each of your districts. You can then use those accounts to set up trips or enter contact information and then book facilities to track the flow of money right within Tentaroo. An example of when you might do this is for your OA Lodge booking the camp for Fall Fellowship. You can book the needed facilities in their user account, override fees if necessary, and then post an @council other payment from their custodial account. If the district or organization is using just a few facilities, you can book them in the usual way, but if they are using all or most of the camp, we have a mass booking process that makes it quick and easy to use reservations to book facilities. Instead of needing to add reservations one by one, this is a method where the placeholder reservation can be used to track the full cost of the booking in combination with a blackout. And I'll go over how to book facilities, including the mass booking method, in the Reserving and Managing Facility Bookings webinar. Now, let's take a look at checking availability for your facilities. You can do this from the admin interface by selecting availabilities from the blue nav bar at the top. These calendar grids show 3 months at a time in a quick view. You can see that the November blackout I added is graying out those dates, so they aren't available to book. To view availability further than just the 3 months shown in this quick view, you can change the date in this picker at the top to switch which is your starting date. So for example, here we can see, starting with March, that April and onward is blacked out, and that's from that annual blackout that I added. You can view these availabilities both in the what we call the grid view, where it's the full calendar in one view, or you can switch to compact view, which shows you those facilities all linked together so they scroll at the same time and you can check availability across facilities very quickly. I'm going to cover all of this in more depth in the next webinar since the same availabilities are shown within the reservation wizard for users. The main difference here is that if you click on the facility itself in this section, you will be jumped into the editor, while the user interface just shows more details of the facility for your users. All right, now let's look at the facility reports from a location that has more data. I'm going to switch facility locations from Camp Tentaroo to the Tentaroo Scout Reservation. And let's go to reports. Facility reports are generated based on a set time frame. So you put in a lookup window. So we'll start the start date, and then let's go to the end of the year for our end date. And there are 3 different reports available here. The trip itinerary PDF generates separate copies of each of your group's trip itineraries. So let's take a look at that. So these trip itineraries will be for any trips that are set during the time frame that I set, the date range. Itineraries include contact information for the group, any notes from the group. You have the list of individual reservations, total costs for each, and the balance. This is the same report that the group can generate from their side. As we scroll, we see we have more trips displayed, so you can print these out as needed. The next report is the group trips report, and you can include your blackout dates in this if you want to. This report is a spreadsheet of your trips. Let's open that in Excel. There it is. And this report will include information about their trip, such as what the trip name was, the date it was added, the number of people, and the number of reservations, including any amounts due. This is very useful when a group has started a trip, but if they haven't added any reservations yet, that'll show up here as no reservations added to the trip. And this is great if you need to now contact this group to check in with them about their plans. Like, are they still needing this, or have they decided not to come after all? Then we have the group reservations report. And again, you can include the blackout dates if you want to here. And this is also a spreadsheet of data about your reservations. All right, and the main difference here with this is that it's going to show the trip information, but it will also show the individual facilities that are being booked. And this is a very handy report for making sure you aren't accidentally double booking facilities when you're adding blackouts, or for checking on why a facility isn't showing as available when you think maybe it should be available. Some best practices when we're talking about reports is to make sure your rangers, your camp masters have access to generate these reports. We will cover the permissions they will need in a future webinar so they can pull the reports they need at any time, as well as being able to post final payments and make other last-minute changes when the group arrives at camp. All right, today I covered building facilities from the ground up so you can drive usage of your camp properties and generate revenue from your council. If you have questions about using any of the features I showed you today, please send us an email to support@tentaroo.com or schedule a training at admin.tentaroo.com/training.